Can I do the barb next? I'm theoretically going to do this for every class. I think you're much smarter than most of us to do such analysis. I don't believe so. I think that I have the privilege of being able to do this as my job. Well, as one of my 3 jobs. So I'm currently working. Most people just don't have the time to sit down and do this. I appreciate the compliment, but... How much of this do I think holds up? I doubt that they changed the structure of the Paragon boards that currently exist. I think they add new glyphs, and I think they add new boards. They may change the values of things in the Paragon, but until how valueless rare nodes that give damage are in the board becomes more realized by the developers, I don't see them ever changing the structure of the current boards. And if it doesn't stay relevant, what can you do? You know? A lot of the content I made when this game first came out isn't relevant anymore, so it's rough out in these streets. That's the reason why I wanted to include maxing out glyphs and how valuable that is. Because there's a universe where they change how valuable the stats on glyphs are. And people may want to know how many points would it take to get certain numbers out of them. And being able to give that insight is, I think, is trying to future-proof it in a certain way. Is there a release date of Season 5 and expansion? Yes. Yeah, there's already dates. Season 5 is going to be 2 months long. And the expansion drops on October 8th. Ain't those really close? Yeah, it is really close. But what I will tell you is that a 5-month-long season, people just won't play the game anymore. And they obviously want people playing into the expansion. So having a shorter season right before the expansion actually makes the most sense. Because people who are normally fast season completers will have completed already and will be juiced up for another season. People who are still playing will be there ready to play the expansion as well. The worst thing that they could do is extend this season by 2 months. Nope, it's 2 months. Like minimum 6 weeks. Ugh.
Blessed above all others be the hour when you remember to remember me.
Season 5 is in 2 weeks or so. Nope, it's in August. So, like 4 weeks. Is it worth time to spend money on spend time on Renown? Yes, you should complete your Renown. Absolutely. Infinimus will still be playable in Season 5 because I invested a lot of time into that build. I don't believe so, at least not in the way that it currently is, but I also don't think that's really playable in Season 4 in a meaningful way. But in Season, like, I can't tell you how it will work in Season 5 because it's going to be a completely different build. And unless they change something about Wither and how little damage Corpse Explosion currently does, it effectively shouldn't be played in its current sense. There's a universe where it becomes Infiniminions for Shade Mist procs and Shadow Blight and X-Falls, but that also wasn't good. With the major issue being that Shade Mist was proccing item-based lucky hit chance. Basically, I can't tell you what Infinimist will look like because it's not functional in a way that can be replicated in the current game. What's the fastest way to get stacks of Shadow Blight? Casting Blight at very high attack speed. And understanding that it requires 100 damage instances on the same target to activate it efficiently. Decompose is a very poor tool for activating Shadow Blight. Infinimist was nerfed walking into this season, and it is nerfed even... It is functionally different in the Season 5. Is Shadow Blight useless on lower tiers because enemies die so fast? You should not expect to have uptime on the blighted aspect if you're killing monsters so fast that you can't do 10 damage instances to them. Is an accurate statement. Yes. Build should be able to complete tier 100 in less than 5 minutes to be considered good. Well, good as in comparable to what the average of competent builds are doing. Do I believe after the 18th? I don't really have a date to when we should expect it, but I think we should expect it soon. Now this part is, well, I have to do worst boards. Wither is the worst intelligence dead end. Worst dead end intelligence board. Yeah, no problem, Azda. Does Infamous still have permanent vulnerability? This season, yes. I recommend leveling on World Tier 2. I would get to World Tier 4 as fast as you physically can. And then do Hell Tides. And if you're dying, go down to World Tier 3 and continue doing that. Bonegraft is the worst willpower at 17. How is Infamous nerfed this season? So a couple different things, but basically, Infamous has been nerfed basically like again and again and again and again and again. And it was not buffed in any meaningful way. And then on top of that, with the amount of damage that you currently have to do to be able to kill monsters, how much damage it can output is no longer sufficient for the content that you need to be able to do. So the content got harder and it did not get stronger. Prior to unlocking 3, yes. There's no reason to play on World Tier 1 at all. Lebbeget's Blood is the worst dexterity board. Now here's the funny thing though, you never really want to dead end willpower on Scent of Death. They should remove the Ring of Sacrilegious Soul because people could cheat. I disagree with that, because that doesn't stop people from cheating. Doesn't actually impact people's ability to cheat at all. I think that would be a fairly short-sighted reason to change the game and negatively impact people's ability to enjoy it because of a personal fear of cheaters who already exist. So I think for the Scent of Death here, but you almost never would dead end on this board. So I think here, I should also kind of highlight these. Which is Flesh Eater, Hulking Monstrosity, and Wither. Second best dead end willpower board. 14 points on Flesh Eater. This is important because you don't want to dead end on the best board of death. Hide 4. So this is Flesh Eater, Hulking Monstrosity. And Wither. Cha Main, thank you very much for the follow. Notes. While Scent of Death is the best dead end willpower board, 13 points, you normally want to build to the maximum life and legendary node, meaning it would be suboptimal to use as a dead end board. And the second best boards only require 14 points. Points to activate. Making this a potentially with the potential to outperform the value of that Paragon point elsewhere. It's such a play, I guess, to use an auto clicker just to prevent logout. Well, no, using an auto clicker is against terms of service. But also, so riddle me this. Help me to better understand how other people playing the game in a way that you personally find of lower moral character impacts your enjoyment of the game in any way, shape, or form, or why we should use those types of parameters for determining what gets to be in video games. And tell me if you can come up with a reason that isn't like steeply drenched in an elitism and an ableism that does not benefit others. Zoff, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate that. Like, what does leveling legit mean? What does legit mean? You know? Are there legit police that will, like, come and take my CD key away if somebody determines that the way that I play is less legit than the way that they play when we're talking about a video game? Did I pack presents for the other 3? I did not. I was not expecting to be able to... I wasn't expecting to be responsible for giving presents. Also, a lot of people are going to be traveling... Well, at least one person is traveling internationally, and they don't really have space. Yeah, so what the ring's intent is to literally automate parts of the Necromancer gameplay experience, because it was available in Season 1, and people enjoyed it so much that they asked for the developers to bring it back. My question is, why does that matter on a grand scale? And I think if you sit down with it, you realize it doesn't matter. Like, really at all. Yeah. Like, somebody else is playing the game in a way that I personally think is of lower value. Why am I even wasting time worrying about that? Like, when I go to sleep at night, will it matter that somebody else used that ring and sat in a Helltide and didn't click as many buttons as me? Probably not. Now, if it was making people unduly powerful while removing reward from, like, player ability, which also still is ableism. But in a game that does have competition, I understand that being important for some people. Then maybe we have a problem. But yeah, so kind of like what you're saying right there. To be sure, not sure where I was going with this. Maybe leveling tunes while sleeping. The major thing is that the ring doesn't change whether or not people can use third-party bots for playing the game for them. And botting is already against terms of service. The ring doesn't enable it in a different way. Like, at all. The ring doesn't enable it as opposed to it not being enabled beforehand. And it's not even the, like, bots are literally just better than that ring. So it's a non-issue. But I think what you're more so looking at is like, hey, people could be botting. Huh. It does impact the game? It doesn't. The ring doesn't. The ring doesn't change anything. The ring is not part of the equation. Bots don't need to use this ring to play better than you, make more gold than you, and not have people playing it. I don't even think the Necromancer would be the best botting class. Probably. But the ring you don't need to bot. Well, you do. An auto clicker is botting. Auto clicking is botting. It's just a very simple form of botting. Yeah. You're running an application that is doing inputs for you while you are not playing the game. Very, very rudimentary, but it is absolutely botted. It's a single input bot. But again, you don't need the ring to do that. Oh, I'm on a different character. If I was on my Bone Spirit character, I'd be able to show you I could do an entire Hell Maiden without moving. I could do an entire Blood Maiden ritual without moving. On Bone Spirit, without the ring, without attacking, because everything is just very easy to kill. But yeah. Okay, so now I have to do an analysis here. So oh, I can actually do this. I don't need this sheet. And then for here, I could just do this. Then here, right? I just take the number divided by the other number. And then this gives me an efficiency score. Right? Yeah, higher efficiency score. Yep. So then the efficiency score is a thing that I'm going for where one less for one more. These have the same efficiency score. Yeah, I'm just looking for efficiency scores. Okay. Nieves, thank you very much for the follow. is an efficiency score done the other way. So this is determining how many per point you put in, how many of the thing do you get. So where this becomes like valuable insight wise is, let's give an example. So Bone Graph, even though it takes the same number of points, has a lower efficiency score than Flesh Eater because you get more per point. So the higher this number is, the more efficient each point is, without which does not then define which board you should use, but it's a first indicator. And when I'm saying efficiency score, maybe one of the issues is I'm not using proper noun, capital E, capital S efficiency score. I'm trying to determine what this number is doing for me, and it is giving me a score of the efficiency of each paragon point required to do this thing. The issue is I will have to eventually redo this, but with minimum points needed to max glyph and path out, which is just not something that you really do right now. Although very often, if you're maxing out a glyph, it should normally only take 5 points to then leave. Which isn't 100% true, but it's true enough right now where I don't think it's particularly valuable. Okay, so here, my highest efficiency score is 2.9. Immediately incorrect. Immediately incorrect. Wowie. Wait, shouldn't these be the same? Hmm. Came in partway through this. Is it a certain pathing? It is the most efficient pathing possible. So for the first part, it is the minimum number of points required to path through this board while activating one of these glyph types. For this one, this is basically dead end boards. This is the minimum number of points required to path to the glyph and then activate it. And then this is the minimum number of points required to path to the glyph and max out the glyph. For scenarios where that used to be relevant and nowadays isn't, but may be relevant in the future. So starter board is the worst glyph max for intelligence to total bonus. Um, 33,470. Or 70. Whereas Flesh Eater is the best. 24 for 75. It's the worst in every case. By a pretty far margin. Okay, so it's the worst at everything. So we could just say starter board is worst glyph max for intelligence, willpower, and dexterity to total bonus. For willpower, 2.25, 2.35. Scent of Death. Scent of Death is 23 for 54. Willpower. And then for Dex, Cult Leader is the best per point. But not the most that you can get. So this is the only place where we have a difference. So Cult Leader. $17 for 39. But is not the most dexterity you can get, which would be Bloodbath. Bloodbath. And that makes Bloodbath the most Glyph Max at 22 for 49. But is not the most efficient per point, which is Cult Leader. Yo, what's going on, Grams? Been impressed with your game knowledge? Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Number is right, as I'm following you. In the case of Bloodbath, you have to spend a total of 22 points to get 49 total dexterity. Correct. Whereas on Cult Leader, to get 39 dexterity, so only 10 left, 2 nodes left, less, I only have to spend 17 points. And that is to path to and activate the glyph to its maximum. What's the point of the bot to sell mats? To make money or to automate gameplay so that when you come back, you have more stuff than you did before. People bot for a lot of different reasons. People are just interested in seeing if they can make bots. Will the spreadsheet be available? It is, yes. It will be. I just have to finish making it. Valuable insights for Blood Begets Blood. Kind of nothing. Valuable magic node enhancing intelligence glyph. Due to overpower damage in the magic nodes. Is it worth trying the AFK minion farming build? Is it worth it? I don't know how I would determine worth for you. No problem, Magoli. So with this knowledge, I could do this. With this knowledge, I could do this. One. Oh no, we've run into our first issue. So instead of using Collider for willpower, we use Scent of Death for willpower. We use Hulking Monstrosity for intelligence, and Bloodbath for intelligence. Okay. Yeah. So Scent of Death. We use hulking for intelligence. Oh, what's the best dead end board though? Wither. We can do Wither for a willpower dead end. Okay. So hulking for any intelligence. Already used Scent of Death. Already used hulking. Wither. Or there will be a willpower. Flesh Eater and Blood Begets. Blood Begets Blood should be an end board or willpower. Flesh Eater is good for willpower and dex. Blood Begets Blood as a terminus. Blood Begets Blood as a willpower terminus? Sure. Welcome to the thing you can technically do. Isn't that stupid? Isn't it stupid that you could do this? The multi-point placement, you hold down shift. Yeah, that's like the worst part. This isn't that bad. I can go get Flesh Eater. I can go get Flesh Eater. I could go get Scent of Death. I could even go get Cult Leader. Easy. 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 At what point is this useful on the Necro? Well, sadly, we don't have enough glyphs that are really that valuable. But I mean, like, Gravekeeper, Warrior, Golem, Essence, Exploit, Control, and Revenge, all valuable to the Necromancer. There's enough point, like, without getting all three of these legendary nodes, there's actually enough points here where I could go get better glyphs in all these slots. On your sheet planner, why do you have the strength crossed out? Because the Necromancer doesn't have strength glyphs. What do I think about Bloodlance in Season 5? It's mid. Turns out that Lochran's Amulet plus Helm of Lucian and Starless Skies makes any build mid. I would like to save this as Paragon board example or video. Okay. This is not true. Huh. Do I do build reviews? Not really. Whenever I'm streaming, I generally have a thing I want to be doing, and to take away from doing that thing means I'm not delivering on what the premise of the stream is. And also, if I were to do build reviews, I would do build reviews all day, and then I wouldn't be able to do anything else. Drex, thank you very much for the 100 biddies. I appreciate that. So, what are like other good insights? Well, one thing is I could do this exact same exercise, and I had so many points left over, I could actually just put in all of the good glyphs that I want to. The only downside is that in a lot of circumstances, you would lose out on additive damage, maximum life, armor, and res. What's up, Niebs? Now, here's the thing. Some builds, the multipliers are more relevant, but like Sever. Only cares about Flesh Eater, Scent of Death, at least in the current meta, it doesn't care about any other legendary nodes. As such, there's no reason to not do... Does Sever even have 9 glyphs, though? Gravekeeper, yes. Essence, yes. Exploit. Control, yes. Revenge, kind of. But it has Amplify, it has Abyssal, and it has Sacrificial, all of which I could fit. So rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it has 3 more. And then I could fit in Scourge, if you were activating it. I could actually do... Well, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, technically. There are 9 damage glyphs Sever could run. With enough points left over to pick up the 2 legendaries, you could do a 9 board setup for Sever. Point requirements to get to glyph node area from start of board. And point requirements to leave said board from glyph area. That's what this is. That's what you're currently looking at. That is what these numbers already represent. Leo, thank you very much for the follow. Darkness and Territorial aren't actually damage glyphs, though. They're survivability glyphs. Am I the only Necro that switched to Blood Surge just so I can farm up to Pit 100 quickly along with other content super fast outside of Uber Bosses for obvious reasons? Am I the only Necro that stopped playing the build that I was playing to very specifically play Blood Surge so that I could do Pit 100s fast and not do Uber Bosses? Are you the only person? I don't know. I don't really think that there's data for this question. See very few Blood Surge builds out there. Yeah, the major issue is that people want to be able to do all content with one build. They don't really want to have multiple builds for doing different types of content, especially since we don't have an armory. And Blood Surge is just not a particularly strong build for doing all content, so most people are not currently playing it as far as like the overall ecosystem is. Now that being said, once we get down to like the point of like just casual gamers who don't really like look at the internet, which is the vast majority of people who play the game, probably the difference in who is and is not playing Blood Surge is like pretty small. So can I do this? Hold on, just save this. Yes, okay. So I can do that. Okay. What up, tribe? Got my codex aspects and started to do Helltides, so I just focus on doing whispers within Helltides or stop to do interactables, etc. too? Both. If you see something that's glowing red, click it. Prioritize doing some whispers, make sure they're actually picking up cinders, and make sure that you're opening up caches for gear that you need. The chests. Alright, it's been 3 hours. I'm gonna get up and stretch. I think we're moving towards making a video. The thing about Armory for switching builds faster, like, will that be helpful? Yes, absolutely. Will people have a Blood Surge setup and a Bone Spear setup? Some people will. No question. The major issue is that most people can't... What is this? Most people can't afford to build out multiple builds worth of competent gear. But yes, the Armory will help the people who are tryhards who have multiple setups to be able to play the game more efficiently for sure. Like, I will enjoy it. I think most casuals really won't, just because of how hard it is to actually get the gear to go do the content. At least in its current state. But let me get up and stretch. Let me move around. I'm gonna go grab some food, drink some water. Y'all should get up and stretch as well. Look away from the computer, treat yourself. If you're watching on YouTube, if you could throw a like on the video, that would make the world easier for me to infiltrate. I'll run ads now so we're not interrupted later. Dude, we're almost at 30,000 followers on Twitch. That's actually like kind of crazy. That number is actually crazy. Yo, more likes than viewers. Let's actually fucking go. Easy game. Thank you. All right, I'll be right back. Chat, I did something I never normally do. What up, Mac? No, I was in fact not pooping. I ate like a whole meal, which is something I don't normally do midway through. I normally am pooping, but I went, you know what? Okay. How does color coding work? Green, good, red, bad.
You have to understand how things are up here. You have to understand how things are up here.
Can I explain bloodbath under minimum points to activate glyph? Can I explain it? It is the best. Green is best. You have a Blood Getters aspect on the helm, but sacrifice the mages. Do you still get the empowerment, or what's up with that? Yeah, of course. Blood Getters says if you raise a skeletal priest, you get the bonus. You do not need to use the maximum number of minions to get the Blood Getters bonus. What up, D-Mark? We're actually doing pretty well.
You have to understand how things are up here.
This one actually doesn't need to have a color. But I'm not sure what other insight I can give you about this. If there is a reason for the question about this one in particular. Okay, I think I'm gonna try my best at making a video. Yeah, none of them have any impact on one another, correct? You learned any new things from doing this? I have. Look at this. Look at what you can do with 35 points left over. You could activate a glyph on every single Paragon board the Necromancer has available to it, and pick up 3 legendary nodes. You go to one meeting and you miss this. You do. With 35 Paragon points left over, that means that I could swap out 3 of these glyphs that are kind of just nothing to damage glyphs and still activate them and still reach both Flesh Eater and Scent of Death. So it's like, it's interesting. Now, there are plenty of builds that need to activate multiple legendary nodes and also want multiple rare nodes, where doing this would not be particularly valuable for you. But you can do this. You could do this on any class. You could just activate 9 glyphs, call it a day. So we need to So first thing I need to do, I just need to get some game footage of just this build kind of playing. So let's do that. And I need to remember how to play the video game. Oh, I need to do the what's it called? There you go. I just deleted that man. Where did that man go? I don't remember how to play this build. Wish there was a temper to speed up corpse tendrils. Ah, interesting. Well, at least the temper no longer slows down corpse tendrils. Well, big W bug fix, yes. Okay. Going into YouTube mode. Goodbye, everybody. All right. Diablo 4 is described by the developers as a systems RPG. You have your gear, your skill tree, your specializations, the aspects, the tempering, the masterworking. All these things feed into various forms of power and progression states that the character gets to go through. And while some of it is a little bit intuitive, you put on the gear that says increases your stats or makes you attack faster, increases how likely you are to critically strike, or reduces your incoming damage via damage reduction. These all tend to make sense, and the majority of players are able to pick these things up, grok them very easily, slap on some gear, and begin playing their build. But without fail, the one thing that I get the most questions about the most often is arguably the most important, but least important, most confusing, and most intuitive, yet nearly impossible to mathematically break down system of the Paragon board. And one of the things that my build guides are able to do is give you something to basically sit down and copy. Hey, I played this build, I played it this way. If you put your points in and you put the glyphs in that I recommend, you'll be able to get the same output. And the reason why people path through the Paragon boards, make the decisions that they do, pick up rare nodes and legendary nodes, make allowances for additional maximum life, or just barely hit the minimum requirements to be able to activate a glyph, has an incredible amount of game knowledge all condensed down into this one simple color by number system. I believe the vast majority of people don't necessarily feel like they have a mastery over. So to this end, I want to try to help y'all so that you don't just have to copy my build or whoever's build you're playing, so that you're able to better understand the decisions being made, why the choices are the way that they are, and basically how you kind of do the math and how do you get to these same end results yourself, in case you're interested in theory crafting, trying out new builds, or just kind of don't think that what you're looking at is necessarily the best option. Please, body. And now, while my area of expertise is obviously the necromancer, and I cannot give you the same level of in-depth insight into why your favorite barbarian creator or your most favorite rogue build does the exact type of pathing and decision making that they do, I want this video to be able to be used by the majority of people trying to understand the Paragon board itself. So I'm going to have timestamps down to everything below. If you feel like you already kind of have a really good handle on it, you just want to get some better insight about the necromancer, jump to that particular timestamp. If you feel like, hey, I know I put points in here, but I don't necessarily know why I do, jump to the starter timestamp instead. I'm going to try to make this as valuable as possible to as many people as possible, so that this video doesn't just kind of fall on the heap of flavor of the month type stuff that we have to make whenever seasons are going live, but instead acts as an evergreen resource so that people a year from now can come back and go, hey, let me go ahead and try to gain some insights about how this system works. Because I only think it's going to become more complex and more valuable as we walk into the expansion, considering we know that we're going to be gaining more Paragon boards as well as legendary glyphs, whatever that means. So I'm trying to future-proof this thing as much as I possibly can. But don't be afraid to use the timestamps if you feel like you already understand what I'm saying. Just skip ahead a little bit. But I promise you, if you've ever wanted to try to make a Paragon board that looks something like this with 35 points left over to spend on something else, you're going to want to pay attention to the majority of what I got to tell you here. And because it's me, obviously, we're going to have a bespoke, multicolored and labeled data sheet. This one is in particular for the Necromancer. I'm hoping that if there's enough interest, you'll be able to do this same thing for the other classes as well. This took 2 full stream days worth of time to be able to create. So please forgive me if it takes me a little bit, but sound off down in the comments if you're looking for this level of detail for the other classes, and I'll do my best to be able to deliver on that as well. I try to break down just basic comments about the rules of how I approach building my Paragon boards. I try to capture just some quick notes about how I personally approach building my Paragon boards. Special notes very specifically about the Necromancer, just kind of like good to know pieces of information that can kind of help you in making your own decisions. And then I went board by board, breaking down the data from the big sheet that you just saw, as well as just including valuable insights and any negative insights that I learned while analyzing each one of these various boards. Let's go ahead and start off with just beginner tips, tricks, general ideas that you should understand when we're talking about the Paragon system. And my first tip is going to be go to maxroll.gg. This URL, I'll include it in the description below, but maxroll.gg/d4/planner is where you can go to use our very own proprietary Paragon board planner. The great part about this tool is it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. When inserting a glyph, you can actually change what level of the glyph you currently have. So let's say you're at level 1 and you haven't increased the radius of your glyph, it'll show you what it will look like in the board. On top of that, it will highlight any of the nodes within radius that are relevant to the bonuses that that glyph gives or require to hit their bonuses. As well as having a pretty neato thing that the majority of people in my chat kept saying, hey, how are you doing that? But if you hold down shift, it'll actually auto path out efficiently to the point that you're clicking at any given time. So as long as you already have a point somewhere, it's going to build off from that point in the most efficient way possible. If you didn't know that you could do that, there you go. Also, the red indicator means that you're not currently connected throughout the Paragon board. And remember, you always have to connect your points before putting them in. So to make this green, you just have to make sure that it's connected. There we go. And last but not least, we have a search function. If you were wondering which nodes in the Paragon board that you're currently looking at, or all of the ones that you've selected, give some form of damage, go ahead and type it into the search bar at the top and go ahead and hover over any of the things and, oh, look at that, that one gives me damage. Whereas other options are going to give me something like damage reduction. And you'll notice that there's at least one node here, another node here, and then another node here, etc. Things like maximum essence. And where you'd be able to find that in your Paragon board as well. The search feature is your friend. But just as a quick introduction, if you're somebody who is like brand new to the game, maybe you're just going to be walking in the expansion, maybe season 4 is your first time doing this, the Paragon system is something that you begin gaining points at level 50. You're going to gain a total of 225 points. That's going to include points that you get from completing your renown through all of the regions as well. And you're never going to be able to get more renown points than that. So you have to be able to build your Paragon boards with this finite amount of 225 points. And while that number may seem very big, it may seem very daunting, the majority of the points that you spent are going to be used to path through your boards. What I mean by that is quite literally having to connect your boards through at least one, if not multiple, strings of interconnected Paragon points. So before I could build up to this glyph socket, I need to be able to put all the points into it before then. But what you don't need to do is fill in every single point. Oddly enough, I still get asked about this. Do I need to fill in a board? Is there ever a value to filling in a board? You will never see anyone recommend fully filling in a single board. Heck, at this point, most people aren't even really picking up the majority of rare, the yellow, or blue magic nodes because they're generally not as valuable as your glyph or legendary nodes that you'll find later on. But starting off your first character, you're going to get glyphs. These will randomly drop throughout the world state, and you're going to have to level them up by doing Nightmare Dungeons. That's where you get glyph XP at the end of them. All level 1 glyphs can only reach out to a radius of 3 on either side. So you can see indicated here by the red outline, 3 points in either side. But once you reach rank 15, you'll be able to reach out to You'll be able to reach out to a total radius of 4. This is another common question that I get. Hey, my glyph doesn't work. You probably need to level it up. Once you hit 15, you can continue to level all the way up to 21. You will continue to increase the top bonus. So instead of granting 114% bonus to magic, I will instead increase my bonus to 150. It will never change the additional bonus. And in the majority of cases, that additional bonus is the most important thing for your character. But in inputting the amount of whatever the requirement is, so here we require 40 intelligence, but by putting in 40 intelligence, I will activate my glyph, I will gain the benefit of whatever it says. Here, if I apply a curse, I will do 10% more damage to my targets as well as my minions. So this is just 10% more damage for activating this glyph. As you can see, activating glyph is probably fairly strong. God damn it. And by pathing through the Paragon board, you'll inevitably hit a glyph socket. A glyph socket is where you put your glyphs. Seems pretty simple. Glyphs are going to allow you to add on incredibly powerful amounts of additional damage reduction, damage multipliers, additional additive damage. So something that's going to go into your big additive bucket, and that's going to be less important later on, but we will touch on that. But the idea is that just starting off, you're going to have rank 1 glyphs. You're going to need to go and upgrade these in Nightmare Dungeons to be able to level them up to at least rank 15. Reason why that's so important is, as you can see, indicated by this red area, a level 1 glyph only reaches a radius of 3, and you may notice that, hey, maybe there's not enough intelligence within range for me to activate this glyph. Well, if you were to level it up to 15, you'll increase the radius by an additional point, so up to 4 on both sides, and now you'll be able to reach enough of these various nodes to be able to activate them. So the question I actually get a lot of the time, hey, my glyph doesn't work in the glyph socket that you recommend, you probably need to level up to 15. And while you can continue to level them up all the way up to level 21, that will only ever increase that top bonus. So now I'm going to be granting 150% bonus to all of these blue magic nodes within radius, or at level 15, I would only be increasing it by 114. This will never increase the additional bonus, which tends to be the most valuable thing on a glyph. Here you'll see that just by cursing a target, I'll do 10% more damage, both for me and my minions, meaning that any additive bonus I would get from this glyph is probably much less important than just straight up 10% more damage across the board. But again, we'll explain that in nitty-gritty detail later on. But by activating the glyph, you will also activate this secondary bonus. And now the glyph is fully activated. You're getting the most benefit out of it in total. And then understanding how that glyph works in your board is obviously going to be very important as well. This one increases magic nodes. So by selecting more magic nodes, they'll be more valuable instead of me perhaps using a different glyph, which does not increase their bonuses. Same can be said for rare nodes. There will be different options, which will increase your rare node bonuses. If I were to very quickly see one, I definitely know what I'm talking about. With other options increasing the rare node bonuses here, so being able to vastly increase the amount of main stat and damage that this particular node is offering me, there are a lot of really interesting combinations. But the starter board is generally easy to understand. You get up to the glyph socket, perhaps you make sure to go pick up things like maximum life or more resistances, maybe you need some armor for your own character, and keep this in mind too, your Paragon board is not meant to be one single state. In the early game, you may need more res, you may need more armor, you may need more maximum life, although I always prioritize maximum life whenever I can. So where you put your points is going to be different than what you'll be able to do later on when your gear is better, offers you more stats, offers you more survivability, and then you're going to be able to prioritize into things like additional damage. So here in the early game, instead of building into damage, I may instead choose to build into the armor, because I personally need that right now. And then later on, once my gear gets better, I would take these points back out and I would put them in somewhere else. But it's when you get out of the starter board that things get to be a bit more complicated, at least at first glance, with so many different options, so many different legendary nodes that you can now go pick up, different rare nodes, magic nodes having different value for you, and being able to decide on a whim what you should personally be doing for your build can become difficult. So then what should you be prioritizing? We're going to go ahead and use the example of a Bone Spirit Necromancer. This is